Greetings and salutations. Welcome, everybody, to the final episode of 10 Things I Like for 2022. I am your host, E. Spencer Kite, the friendly neighborhood Spencer Man, here on the SevereMMA YouTube page, getting into UFC Vegas 66, the final fight card of the year, the last time we will run through the myriad things that excite me about a UFC event for this year. And as I've said throughout this week, I think this is a good card. I think this is a nice way to close out the year. I'm glad the UFC moved away from doing sort of the very end of December pay-per-views. I think those were always tough, both on the athletes and on the media and on fans as well, right? Like it was always around something else that was happening right around New Year. Makes it challenging. It was right after Christmas. We all have other things. We all need the break at some point. And it's nice to me. It feels really good to have this 3-4 week break where we get to look back on the year and start looking forward to the next year, kind of recharge the batteries a little bit, spend a couple Saturdays with our loved ones or by ourselves or with our pets, whoever it may be, whatever it may be, whatever you do on your non-UFC weekends, we all need them at times. But this weekend, we get one last fight card. And it's a good one. As I said, I like the main event. I like a bunch of stuff that's on it. There's chances to get some answers to some questions that we asked yesterday on one question. And so we'll get right in. Item number one, classic main event matchup of power versus technique, right? Cannonier, the more powerful guy, probably has to find a finish to get a victory. Sean Strickland, more of a technician, more of a guy that's going to beat you with volume. It's death by 1,000 cuts, as opposed to the one big shot that puts you down and ends the fight. And I love the dynamic of that. Like I'm always interested in seeing, especially coming off what these guys are coming off of, as I talked about yesterday. Cannonier coming off the loss to Izzy, Strickland coming off getting knocked out by Oleksiejczuk. What changes what changes get made from those losses that then get put in here where they're kind of facing similar versions of the guys that they just lost to, right? Not on the same level, not saying that Sean Strickland is the diverse striker or the technician that Israel Adesanya is, nor is Jared Cannonier the powerhouse that Oleksiejczuk is, but similar types of fighters. Is there a hangover effect? Do they each grow from those mistakes and learn from those mistakes and the things that they didn't feel they did well in those fights? 5 rounds probably favors Strickland. We know he's got a gas tank. Not that Jared Cannonier can't do it. We just haven't had to see it very much yet in his middleweight career or his UFC career at all. But we know Cannonier can crack. We've seen him go out there and take guys down and just maul them on the ground. And so this is super interesting to me. I think this is a pivotal fight for each guy in terms of where they're at in their careers and what we can expect from them going forward, not just next year, but sort of the next couple of years, if there can be a bounce back into championship contention. And so we're going to close out with a real interesting one on Saturday. Item 2, a delicious lightweight co-main event. Arman Tsarukyan is 26 years old. He is 18-3 overall, 5-2 in the UFC. Those losses are a debut loss to the champion Islam Makhachev and his loss in June to Mateusz Gamrot, which was a super close fight. I scored it for Tsarukyan. It is still my fight of the year. We're not taking any points from Arman Tsarukyan for those 2 losses. His opponent, Damir Ismagulov, is 31, 24-1 overall, a 19-fight winning streak that includes 5 victories and 5 appearances in the UFC. Like, give me all of this all of the time, especially in these spots. So just from a skill, talent, competitive side, I love this. Both guys are well-rounded. We're going to see a little bit of everything this fight. We're going to see if Tsarukyan can strike with Ismagulov. We're going to see if he can get Ismagulov to the ground. Conversely, we're going to see if Ismagulov can defend the wrestling and defend the takedowns and how he fits in those scrambles, what he's able to do when it does hit the canvas, if it gets there. Outstanding. The other piece of it, and this is sort of connected to my big rant in the summer about Tsarukyan and Gamrot getting to be the main event of a fight night show. This is where you showcase these kinds of guys. Both are ranked in the top 15 at lightweight, which is an ultra competitive division. And in terms of name value, is a very top heavy division, right? Everybody knows the 3-4 guys at the top of the division: Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler, Justin Gaethje, those names, Charles Oliveira as well. But these guys are very much going to be in that mix, especially the winner of this is going to move forward into that collection. Saryukin's already ranked number 9. He's going to be fighting someone you are very familiar with if he wins this fight. And the same holds true for Ismagulov. And so giving a fight like this and athletes like this that are in the spot they're in, the opportunity to be the co-main event on the final show of the year that's going to automatically get attention because it is the final show of the year, because we haven't run all the way up to Christmas and we're not looking ahead to a pay-per-view, we're looking ahead to some weeks off. This is where you showcase them. It's great that it's here. It is a fantastic fight. I look forward to people coming away from Saturday being like, man, those two dudes are good, and I can't wait to see more of them in 2023. That's my hope for the fight. It's why I like it. Should be terrific. Item 3, another Amir Albazzi appearance. Say that 4 times fast for the 4 A's. That's why I said 4, not 5. Listen, I would have preferred either of the first 2 matchups that were on the table for the Prince. It was Alex Perez, then it was Brandon Royval. Perez went away. He is now fighting Kai Kara-France. Royval broke his wrist. He's on the sidelines. Get well soon, Raw Dog. But listen, Amir Albazzi debuted in the UFC in July 2020. He made his second appearance, his sophomore appearance, in July of 2021, and then didn't fight again until August. And so the fact that we're adding December 2022 to this run is great, right? Like, he's a guy that hasn't been super active for as good as he's been. We just haven't seen a ton of him yet. And so I'm always going to take getting to see guys that are 15-1 overall, 3-0 in the UFC, 29 years old, like right on that cusp of getting into contention and trying to sort of show us whether they are a contender, being more active and getting a chance to see them again. It's not necessarily a fight, as I said yesterday, against Alessandro Costa this weekend, that is going to maybe tell us about his upside, about where that ceiling rests. It might tell us a little more. I mean, it might. If he goes out and struggles or loses, then certainly it changes the equation, changes the conversation. But if he goes out and dominates, he's sort of expected to go out and dominate, right? He's been here before. Costa's a debuting fighter, didn't get a contract off Contender Series. This is one Albazzi is supposed to win, and maybe win handily. And so we don't necessarily take as much from it as if he was fighting Alex Perez or Brandon Royval. But it's still an opportunity to get another win, to show where you're at, to make another call out, to tell everybody, look, I am here. I'm moving forward in this division that is going to be very prominent this year. I know I've stressed it a lot over the last few weeks, but it's because I think for the first quarter of the year, at least, Flyweight is going to be front and center, and we're going to be talking about it a lot. This is his chance to end the year with a terrific performance, a second victory this year, a 4 straight victory in the UFC, and just say, look, I'm here. You're going to have to deal with me. So pay attention. Item 4, Drew Dober's fighting. I mean, need I say more? Drew Dober is fighting. What's not to like about that? My guy has never been in a boring fight ever. Go back and look at the UFC resume. There's not one on there. And like, I know I'm a weirdo that remembers all of them and can piece them together in my head and go, yeah, no, that was this. This was this. There were some weird ones. There were some competitive ones. There were some losses. There were some great wins. Every single one of them I enjoyed. I liked sitting there, whether it was 5 seconds or 15 minutes. I enjoyed sitting through them because I like the way Drew Dober fights. Add on to that, he's got great hair. He's annoyingly handsome. And he gets on the mic after his wins and is like, look, they offered me a bunch of dudes that would have been boring fights. And I said no, because I don't want to be in boring fights. How do you not love a guy like that? How do you not get excited to see a guy like that fight? His 2 wins this year, both are bonkers fights. The first one is the Terrence McKinney fight, which lasted about 3 minutes and still featured giant swings of momentum. where it looked at one point like McKinney is going to win in a heartbeat on short notice, and then Dober rallies back and gets the win. Then earlier this summer in July, the third round knockout of Rafael Alves with the punch to the sternum, essentially, like just bashed him right in the gut, right in the chest, and that was it. Terrific win. He's facing a like-minded guy in Bobby Green, also not really capable of being in a boring fight. Going to go out there and trash talk at him a little bit, point at him a little bit. Should be fun. Give me all the Drew Dober fights always. Item 5, Michał Oleksiejczuk's second middleweight showing. Again, I don't know why I did this to myself with these titles that I get to stumble over. I've always liked Michał Oleksiejczuk. Been interesting to me since his debut against Khalil Roundtree Jr., which was a win that was then overturned, positive test, suspended, whatever. It's hard to judge where he fits at middleweight after a 2-minute effort against Sam Alvey, right? Like, you can't put a ton of stock into being the 6th or 7th or 8th straight guy to beat Sam Alvey. But what I will say is that he still got Sam Alvey out of there in 2 minutes, which is quicker than Brendan Allen, Julian Marquez, Ryan Spann, Jimmy Crute, and Little Nog, and a bunch of guys that went the distance with him. And so, look, I know it's Sam Alvey, and we want to go, oh, but it was Sam Alvey. He handled his business, which is the thing we ask of people when they are against overmatched competition. This is one of those things that I never understand. We want to downplay the level of competition, but we don't want to give recognition to handling business the way it should be handled against that lesser competition. Like going out and going 15 minutes and being in a super competitive fight with Sam Alvey is very different than going out there and beating the hell out of him in front of his 7 children and his lovely wife sitting cage side front row watching it all happen. Oleksiejczuk is 27. He's 17-5 with that 1 no contest. He's won 3 of his last 4. I love the way he boxes. I love the way that he works the body. This fight with Cody Brundage should, as I said yesterday, give us a better idea of where each of these guys fit, of where the ceiling is for each of these men. And I just want to see it. I'm looking forward to it. I like opportunities to see guys that I have questions about, that I do want to see more from. And so we're getting it. Can't wait. Item 6. Vlismas versus McKenna should be informative. And look, I like informative fights. It's not anything to do with the rankings. It's not anything to do with contention, but it's going to tell me and us, ideally, a little bit more about each of these fighters. And I need to know. I think we still all have questions and need to know more about each of these women. Cheyenne Vlismas, it's her first fight in a year. She's on a 2-fight winning streak. She had a lot going on, or has a lot going on in her personal life. Again, I'm not getting into it. It's not my place to speak about it, but it can be a lot, right? Like, those things happening can impact fight careers. Corey McKenna is coming off a dominant performance against Miranda Granger with the Von Flue choke. It was her best effort yet. We've seen her style frustrate Cheyenne Vlismas in the past. We've also seen that Vlismas is a better striker, or we've seen Vlismas striking in the past, and it portends to be better than what Corey McKenna brings, because she's got the short reach, because it's not her necessarily first and foremost skill set. And I'm just really curious to see which of these two uses this moment to capitalize the most, to close out the year with a great showing. Is it Vlismas coming back and saying, look, I know I've been gone for a year, but here's 3rd straight victory over a good, respected prospect. I'm going forward. Or is it McKenna coming out and fighting to her strengths, getting into her grappling and saying, look, that fight against Elise Reed in March, I screwed up. I didn't do the right things. I fixed that. I'm going to run through this bitch and get me another victory. Can't wait to see it. Number 7, Jake Matthews returns. I, like many people, have been waiting for this one since UFC 275 when he beat Andre Fialho He is my fighter to watch this week up on the SevereMMA website. Go check that out, SevereMMA.com. It's an odd matchup to me. I was surprised when this fight was announced because Matthews is coming off a great victory and Matt Semmelsberger is coming off a loss to Alex Morono. But it's a good chance to see if Jake Matthews can avoid getting sucked into some of the mistakes he used to make earlier in his career. He used to be a guy that you could get under his skin and you could draw him into brawls. You could draw him into firefights where the defenses come down a little bit and he becomes susceptible to shots. We didn't see that against Fialho. He did a great job in that fight of managing the range, of not rushing in when he had him hurt. Took a couple of shots, but he wore them well. He carried them well, always reset or landed in response and looked terrific. That fight might have been, we may look back on that fight and be like, that is where Jake Matthews became a contender, became the full best version of himself. The crazy thing is that he's still only 28. He's 11-6 in the UFC. He looked really confident in himself and his skills in June. And so getting a chance to see if that was matchup dependent and opponent dependent and just a great night or a harbinger of things to come has been something I've been looking forward to since June. It took a while for him to get here. He's one of those guys that we've thought for a number of years, hey, I wonder what he's going to look like fully formed. I wonder if he can get there because all of the foundational pieces looked good. It's taken a while, but he's another one of those examples of, doesn't it always take a while? Like, it's not often that we get 21, 22, 23-year-olds that blow into the UFC and just race to the top of the division and grab gold and then stay there and hang out for a long time. That's not what the sport has been for the last number of years, right? It's why John Jones remains such an anomaly. But we have seen athletes that progress bit by bit, have some stumbles, have some setbacks, have to learn, have to grow into their body, find the right weight class, all of those things. Jake Matthews ticks all of those boxes. I'm not saying that he's destined and guaranteed to follow that path that guys like Charles Oliveira or Dustin Poirier followed to get to where they are now. But it's possible. And now we get to see him on Saturday. And we get to kind of try to figure out if that's what we're seeing. I can't wait. Item 8, an outstanding bantamweight clash between Said Nurmagomedov and Said Yakub Kakhramonov. Nurmagomedov is 30 years old. He's 16-2 overall, 5-1 in the UFC, and currently ranked number 15 in the best division in the sport, the 135-pound weight class. Kakhramonov is 27. He is 10-2, 2-0 in the UFC. This is what I want. These are the things I want to see, and I want to see them on cards like this because they don't get buried, right? They don't get lost in the shuffle. If this was on UFC 282 last week, we're not talking about it. It just like I'm talking about it because I talk about every fight and we talk about it on the preview because myself and Ian and Harry and Shawnee, we're into every fight and we're more hardcore than a lot of people. We're more dedicated to this. And I don't mean that in a like, we're better than you. I just mean like we pay deeper attention. But it would have been buried and it would have been overshadowed by all the other things that were going on because even on the prelims, there were a bunch of stories that would have trumped this because media would have been covering, as they rightly should have, Raul Rojas and the return of Edmund Shabazian and things of that nature. But here we get to talk about it because there aren't all of those other distractions, all of those other fights that take up oxygen. And this is a terrific fight. Like the winner of this is facing someone ranked above them next year. And the guys that are ranked above Nurmagomedov right now are all people that you should be very excited to see compete in 2023 and beyond. Bantamweight is terrific. This should be an action-packed fight, good potential for a finish, lots of scrambles. Like these two guys are good everywhere. Stylistically, this should be fun. And the winner is on the cusp of breaking into that top tier in the best division in the sport. Get pumped, get excited. This is going to be a great fight. Thank me later. Item 9, a sneaky good welterweight fight between Rinat Fakhretdinov and Brian Battle. Fakhretdinov is 31 years old. He is 20-2 overall. It's his second UFC appearance. He won his debut earlier this year against Andreas Michailidis after a very long layoff. So he went the distance. It's one of those ones for me where I can't really fault him too much as I would like to see him beat a guy like Michailidis sooner, quicker, more emphatically. 18-month layoff, shake off some of the rust, UFC debut, fine, gets the chance to show sort of the better version of himself, if there is one, greater version of himself, and more of an accounting of his skills, if those things are there this weekend. Bryan Battle's 28. He's 3-0 in the UFC. He's won 9 straight if you include, as you should, his Ultimate Fighter wins. He's coming off a 44-second knockout win in his welterweight debut. He's one of those guys, I said it yesterday, I've been saying it throughout his career, that just has that little bit of something, has that little bit of diamond in the rough. And we're going to keep seeing if they can polish that piece of coal up and break that piece of coal down and turn it into an actual diamond. This is a great test for both guys. To me, it's the right kind of matchup for each of these men at this point in their UFC careers and their actual overall careers, right? If Fakhretdinov is supposed to be or going to be someone that really does move forward in this division, well, he needs to go out and beat Bryan Battle and probably do it handily, because you're facing a guy that's younger than you, that's way less experienced than you. This is the one where if you come off that win in June and say, look, that was fine, but I promise to do better, come and do better. And if you're Battle, this is one of those ones where you get a chance to beat the 31-year-old Russian who's got 22 fights, who's only been beaten twice and hasn't been beaten in a very long time. And you get to show a little more of that development, and you get to convince a few more people other than myself that you're somebody to pay closer tabs on in the welterweight division. And so this is the right kind of card for these guys. Again, it's the perfect kind of fight for this card. It's the perfect fight for these guys. Should be fun. Looking forward to it. Last one, and then we get out of here. Number 10, a stellar flyweight contest between Manel Kape and David Dvorak. The second fight of the night is a top 15 flyweight pairing. Now, we can quibble and argue about fight card placement and why isn't this on the main card and all of those things until we're blue in the face. I will stand by my argument, one, that where a fight is placed on the card has no impact on the quality of that fight or the skills that those athletes bring into the cage. So just because this is second doesn't mean they're the second worst set of fighters on this card. That is categorically false, has never been true, will never be true. This is an outstanding fight. That being said, I do understand the argument of like, showcase this a little more because these two dudes are going to be in title contention, especially the winner after this fight. And so, you should probably showcase the guys where one of them is going to be a top 10 fighter after this victory. So Manel Kape comes in, far more hype, coming off 2 first-round finishes, came into the UFC just last year. Or no, 2020, I believe. Can't remember. Came in 2020, 2 losses, tons of hype coming out of Ryzen, loses to Pantoja and Mateus Nicolau. Then he comes back and he gets the 2 victories, has looked good. He's been off for a little bit since, but he's coming in with the hype, and he's a guy that a lot of people have paid attention to. Dvorak's the other side of that coin. He's been very low key. He's been very underrated. He's coming off a loss to Mateus Nicolau last time out, but before that he had won 16 straight, including his first 3 UFC appearances. As I said, the winner of this is in the top 10 and moving forward. And when you get into the top 10, if you go and look at it, like, you're not that far away from being in title contention and being at a title shot. You're 1, maybe 2 more wins away. So the winner of this could be facing Amir Albazzi, who fights later in the night. Could be facing Brandon Royval when he gets healthy. Could be facing Nicolau. I mean, they both faced Nicolau, so that's probably not happening. But like Alex Perez, Kai Kara France winner or loser, or Pantoja, depending on where he's at. Like, there are going to be options. And then a win there carries them into the title conversation. This is a terrific fight. It's a great way to get into it on Saturday afternoon. For me, at least, Saturday afternoon. This fight will happen at like 1:45. Terrific. Outstanding fight. Should be entertaining. Should be fun. This whole fight card should be good. I can't wait to see it. And then to just enjoy not having UFC fights for a couple of weekends. I'm going to get into my fighters to watch in that time. Harry and I are going to do some year-end takeaways, some year-in review takeaways. So keep an eye out for that. The rest of the team is going to be filling in and jumping in and doing a whole bunch of stuff over these next few weeks as we take a little bit of downtime, but also make sure to still get you some stuff. So check out this page. Check out the website itself, SevereMMA.com. Check out the Patreon, SevereMMA.com/pints, the best URL in the business for a bunch of audio stuff there as well. Shawnee and I are going to do a state of the UFC. There'll be the big show. There'll be the Q&As, all that stuff. The old triangle will be around. Going to be great. We've got a lot ready for you for the holiday break. But for now, we're wrapping up the UFC calendar. It's been fun. I got a couple more shows still. Got picks in place tomorrow. Got takeaways on Tuesday with Harry. We'll drop another episode of A Conversation With. If you haven't checked out this week's, myself and Megan O'Leary sat down for just about an hour. Go check that out, please and thank you. Let us know what you think as always. Love you. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time.